no city employed the best paintbrushes more in that century and at the start of the 1600s, since all the streets were an authentic theatre for various occasions. In the same way, in the previous century, many houses of that old architecture that terminates with merlons high up. Who do we speak of, if not Mantegna, who can be named as the first master of the good, and of Alberti, the first to bring good architecture? The real appearance of the town of Mantua between the 14th and 16th centuries can nowadays only be surmised. However, our imagination can be given precious clues, one of which being the magnificent lesson with which Mantegna rewards us in the San Giorgio Castle. Echoes are immediately felt in the decoration on the facades of the town's palazzi, a fact which makes Mantua a splendid art centre in the Po Valley. Besides their intrinsic aesthetic value, the fresco decorations serve to protect the brickwork that, once plastered over, could be embellished in any manner one wished, depending on the current taste and the financial means of the client. Prior to the joyful decorations and colours of the Renaissance, the prevailing taste was, natural enough, the late Gothic. A fine example of this is the house overlooking Piazza Erbe that belonged to a merchant by the name of Giovanni Boniforte da Concorrezzo. The building, dated 1455, is characterized by a terracotta facade, twisted columns, and beautifully moulded brick decoration. Late Gothic Lombard features and a certain Venetian influence can still be felt. Recent stratigraphic tests have led to the theory that the main facade was originally decorated with magnificent terracotta relief work painted in alternating colors. The bases of the plain and spiral columns were painted in red. The projecting parts on the corniche were embellished with gold leaf, and the borders around the windows were outlined in green earth. Also decorated using terracotta and datable not before the 1480s is Palazzo Villani in Via Mazzini. Here the facade decorations are explicitly Renaissance. On the Francelle-like frieze, attractive putti dance inside circular garlands in balanced harmony, while ovate shapes and leaves, also made from monochrome terracotta, add elegance and taste. Another example of a facade where fresco is not used is Casa Guarina in Via Fratini, today better known as Casino Valenti. The 15th century structure is characterized by tall coping on the second floor. 5 alcoves set between pairs of semi-columns alternate with roundels. Inside these are Mantegnesque terracotta statues with a Tuscan air about them. These are copies of the ones currently in Palazzo di San Sebastiano, which, built between 1506 and 1508, was the residence of Francesco II Gonzaga. Clear signs of painted decoration can still be seen on the facade today. The frescoes represented large stones, some pointed, which were soberly repeated in different colors across the whole wall in a style that was still 15th century, confirmed by the plant volutes, ovate shapes, and waves in the frieze below the roof. On the Casa del Capolaio in Piazza Marconi, the paint surface suggests direct comparison with Andrea Mantegna's workshop. In the upper band, there are clear references to the putti, holding the dedicatory plaque and round monochrome shield in the bridal chamber. The putti, here in animated poses, alternate with braziers held up by dolphins. In the open space between the second-floor windows, the way the foreshortening is handled, the proportions, and the organization between the figures create a scene whose dimensions recall those in the Hampton Court, 1484 to 1492, triumphs of Caesar. The facade on Piazza Erbe, datable to around 1480, also remains faithful to the masterpiece in Castello di San Giorgio. Classical models are to be found both in the band, enlivened by plant motifs such as cornucopus and acanthus leaves, and in the choice of the carducci, symbols of concord, happiness and peace. Imaginary animals drawn with a sure hand appear within circular spaces, deriving from Mantegna's custom of linking rings. However, the Mantuan house, whose decorations are perhaps closest to the style of Andrea Mantegna, is that in Via Fratelli Bandiera. Columns painted to simulate marble, architecture on architecture, and more Greek-Roman type friezes with elegant plant volutes delimit large stretches of wall painted with the motif of the polychrome circles linked together. The same decorative pattern appears by another hand in the shape of a balustrade on the band beneath the cornice of the elevation in Via Massari. Here human outlines jut out in a variety of poses beside the Francelli crenellation containing large shell valves. Not far away in Via Giovi, there's a painted brick wall, also with attractive friezes, containing putti weaving their way between leaves and plant wreaths. Casa Cantone, situated on the corner between Via Sacchi and Via Chiassi, is close in style to the house in Via Massari. The dryness of the line that just below the roof delineates figures of important personages wearing drapery continues at the top of the crenellation, decorated with heads turned in profile and wearing crowns in the style of classical antiquity. The merlons, representative of nobility, reappear in the facade of the inner courtyard of Palazzo Petrozzani in Via Mazzini. Here they alternate with recesses painted with Gonzaga devices. At Palazzo Capilupi in Piazza San Giovanni, we can admire the cleverness of the sophisticated decorative scheme. Starting from the upper area, the cornices jut out with a variety of different types of ornamentation, from golden and pearl grey ovate shapes, repeated in two bands of different sizes. One descends to the severe motifs on the detailed mouldering in alternating relief. The broad expanse of wall is punctuated with a logical geometry that includes two elegant wide bands that delimit the expanse of oblong panels. The choice of a similar geometric module can be seen in the painting on the plasterwork of the Palazzo in Via Chiassi. A sophisticated checkerboard design covers the entire wall, and there's a singular frieze in a classical style of alternating greys and whites, where satyrs, putti, and imaginary animals dance in an overtly Renaissance manner. The decoration of Palazzo Cadenazzi in Via Cavour dedicates ample space to the symbols of the four elements. The first floor band celebrates air and water in a harmonious interweave of griffins, tritons and dolphins, while the second floor is dedicated to earth and fire, represented in the module that alternates the flames of the brazier and the curves of the cornucopias, with the centaur ridden by a young naked girl, possibly identifiable as Nexus and Deianira. A web of faux marble and octagons, probably containing painted scenes, is interrupted to shift the focus onto illustrated scenes in the manner of Mantegna's triumphs. Finally, we come to the simulation of burnished gold, with its clear reference to classical Rome in the elegant friezes at Mantegna's house, where a harmonious weaving of palmettes, ovate shapes, pine cones, and volutes all stand out. The same backgrounds appear in an attic at Palazzo Te, where there's an ornamental motif inspired by plant designs. The painted wall that hid part of the roof was part of the facade of an earlier building. It was later incorporated into the exceptional structure of Palazzo Te, designed and frescoed by Giulio Romano, Raphael's most brilliant pupil. But that's